Welcome to Phone Pretexting, Mastering Social Engineering Savoir-Faire. My name is Savoir-Suroosh. Everyone can call me Ari. And this is going to be a break from all of these super technical talks so far. You're probably thinking that's because phone pretexting is one of the least technical offerings. And you're right. Nevertheless, I thought that it would be useful to cover one great example of a successful campaign that can be tweaked and improved upon to yield better results and maybe help take the jitters that we all feel, during a phone pretexting campaign. Um, if you've never done phone pretexting before, then this should be a pretty helpful guide and save you from having to discover a lot of these things on your own. And if you have done a lot of phone pretexting before, I'm hoping that there's still going to be at least one or two tricks in this presentation that maybe you haven't thought of before. So as I covered, it's not going to be very focused on the infrastructure setup, though there is going to be a little bit of that. It's mostly just a solid look at an example that I've had a lot of success with that hopefully is going to provide kind of a framework. Think of this as a public speaking course. Everyone knows, it's pretty straightforward and that some people have a talent for it and some people don't. But this is like a public speaking course going to provide kind of a framework and a common way of speaking about phone pretexting. The main inspiration for this, I would say, is seeing different consultants get really stressed out before a phone pretexting campaign and also struggle to get anything really solid out of a phone pretexting campaign. A lot of the time they get on the phone, they try to talk their way into getting credentials given to them over the phone, and that's, in my experience, become very difficult. A lot of people are very wary about giving out that kind of information, even if they at first believe you're part of the help desk. So this example is going to walk through how best to disguise ourselves as perhaps a member of the help desk and to get credentials submitted through a portal that we control. So the first step is the kickoff call, as any engagement would start. And it begins really trying to get ahead of a lot of the questions that are going to come up later on. Our main two things that we're trying to get to the bottom of right away with our clients is what is their criteria for success? What are they looking for? It's going to depend greatly depending on the client. If it's a hotel chain, a lot of the time they want you to be able to see if you can change a reservation on file, see if you can get access to a room. They want to see how a stranger can call up and impact their guests' reservations. Whereas with this example, of course, we are going to give our clients actual credentials that we gather through a portal that we control, and that's going to be our criteria for success. So, kind of getting an idea of what they're looking for is really important. It will save you from having to send a bunch of emails back and forth, during the campaign. And then the second big thing is trying to gauge their comfort level. Are they comfortable with impersonating a current employee? Some clients are not going to be comfortable with that because it can lead to confusion down the road. Are they comfortable with going for a screen connect session? Again, something that some clients are going to be comfortable with and others are going to want to avoid that thing. The further you can get, the better in determining these things before you have to email them back and forth. Of course, that leads into the next stage once this actually kicks off, or just before it kicks off, since OSID can be conducted before that. The main things that we want to know is how large is this company? How large is their IT staff? Those are big questions because we're trying to figure out if the person that we're trying to impersonate, how likely is it that they're in the same room as our targets? How likely are they to be on a first name and a personal relationship basis with the person that we're going to impersonate? It has happened where I call and I'm impersonating someone who is directly across the room from this person I'm speaking to. It gets burned pretty quickly, and you're not going to get a lot of credentials. You're not going to get anywhere if you've determined that. So you might have to pivot. But if you determine that they're a very large company, then it's very unlikely that they're going to know every Surface desk or worker, and it's probably going to be fine if you pick someone with a title that's kind of kind of low. That's the key that I've had is, just choosing based on a pretty low title because they're less likely to be known throughout the company. And then, of course, you do want to make sure that they are still with the company. Make sure that they haven't been, let go or they haven't moved on 2 years ago. That has happened. And of course, that's embarrassing and doesn't get you anywhere. So you want to use and leverage as much social media and job sites to confirm their employment status, if at all possible. So kind of going into this example scenario, we're kind of ready to take a look at this one specifically. So this is going to be a scenario where we are guiding the user to a malicious login portal that we control to capture their credentials under the guise of being just part of their company's help desk and helping the user to sync back up with the update server. That is taken right out of the script. Syncing back up with the update server is something that I've had a ton of luck with. So a couple of components that we're going to be piecing together before we actually sit down and make these calls is we are going to put together the script. A couple keys with the script is that you want it to be super, super easy to read, space it out, really just make it super easy to glance over in the heat of the moment and find your place and, try to be able to jump right back in after, looking at something else where you're logging information or, just taking down other notes about who you're speaking to. All of that stuff is important for a campaign. So you want to have your script really, really easily laid out. And then of course, the trick that I use is I highlight the components that change. A lot of the time I'll reuse the script, but I will highlight the name of the person that I'm impersonating, and I will highlight the domain that I'm about to deliver over the phone. And that is a good segue into the domain. What I would consider the most important part of this entire operation. The domain must be perfect. It must be a couple of different things. It must be incredibly easy to say over the phone. Have you ever tried to convey a spelling of a word to someone over the phone? It's almost impossible. It doesn't matter what word it is. It's really, really difficult to convey over the phone for whatever reason. So you want to make sure that whatever domain you purpose towards this is going to be something clear and really easy to speak over the phone. The example that I believe is on the next slide is internal-network.com. And that .com part is really important. You want to make sure that your top level domain is super, super recognizable, that a non-techie person would not have any kind of suspicion arose. Now, I go with .com, and I've also had a lot of luck with .network only because it's easily explained away. When you tell them .network, you can easily, just kind of, oh yeah, it's because it's our internal network, or, just something like that. And people usually accept that very quickly. My point is you don't want to go with any, .nets or .ios or any of the more fashionable top level domains because they will arouse suspicion. And speaking of which, you want to use a recognizable subdomain. Recognizable, I'm not sure if that's really the right word. What you want is to use their company's name as the subdomain because that is immediately going to add verisimilitude to the domain that you're trying to convince them to go to. We'll see that example on the next slide when we actually look at the script. But what we're going for is non-suspicion arousing and really easy to convey over the phone. And then, of course, we have the portal that they're actually going to be guided to. You want to make sure that this is simple and clean. A full clone would be nice, but as we all know, that's not always possible to do easily. So a lot of the time, I'll just use a portal that I kind of retweak the name of the company and the logo, and I'll retweak a couple of little things, and we'll see that on a slide here in a second. So let's take a look at this example script. This has less spacing and a smaller font than I would actually use because, of course, have to fit it on the slide, but this is the basic idea. So I would say, hi, Sharon. This is just an example here. This is Robert Jacobs from the service desk. How are you doing? And, let them respond. Notice I didn't say service desk from their company. I didn't call out their company specifically. people are not expecting their service desk to call them and announce what company they work for. I've seen a lot of consultants do this, and it sounds like it makes sense at first, but it really doesn't. It sounds strange right away, even if someone can't put their finger on it right away. It sounds strange. So then you explain, so last night we tried pushing some updates out to the workstations, and it looks like yours went out of sync with the update server, and your workstation, for whatever reason, didn't receive them. Do you remember denying any updates yesterday or today? Now that question is super, super important, and it does a couple of different things. Number one, it sounds realistic because, IT service, it would likely call you up and ask about something that you might have done, because people are constantly, zipping around, clicking pop-ups, just getting rid of things and not really reading things. That's a very common thing for people to do. So right away in their response, you're going to be able to tell how far you can get with this person, because if they respond like, shoot, I might have, I think I might have, I saw something pop up this morning. You have them, because they responded that way. They responded like, okay, I know that this is service desk. I believe this person. And honestly, I might have done that. They're more than likely 95% sure that you're going to be able to guide them all the way through this mixed process, and you're going to get their credentials. On the other hand, if they respond with, wait, who did you say this was? Then it's possible that whoever you're impersonating, they know on a personal level, or maybe they just are that security aware, and they understand the fact that that you have not given them enough information for them to give you any information just yet. It's pretty rare though. So with that question, you're going to get a ton of information right then and there. And then, of course, that bleeds straight into, okay, well, no problem. So if you have a minute, and if you're in front of your computer, we can get you synced right back up, and it should only take a minute or two. Then you might get a little bit of pushback. Oh, I'm working on this and that. And you say, okay, well, no problem. Just go ahead and save your work. We do want to get you synced back up, because a pretty important update did roll out last night. So, and then, the pushback is not usually going to be severe. It's just going to be like, oh, do I need to save my work? Do I need to do that? That sort of thing. And then, of course, you're going to let them know to open up a browser, and you can open up any browser on your machine if you have Chrome or, just whatever. And you're going to browse to, and then bam, you deliver the domain. So for this, I gave the example of capital management. It's just, you're going to browse to capital management as one word, .internal-network.com. If everything goes well, they will have heard you correctly the first time, and will need very little tweaking. And of course, if you design your portal correctly, they're not going to get any kind of like cert warning, and they're just going to go right to the portal. And then you can kind of explain things that this is a web portal that we set up to assist in re-enrolling in automatic updates. And as Service Desk will never ask you for your password, so just go ahead and log in there to resync yourself, and you'll find that they do. They will log in there. You will see that their credentials have populated on the other side based on however you have it set up. And that is when it becomes a question of, was post-exploitation in scope? Do they have MFA? That sort of thing. Because if they do, you could have the login portal pulled up, use those credentials that you just captured, alert them to the fact that they're going to receive a push notification. And as soon as they do, they will accept it. You'll be into their email or whatever it is, and then post-exploitation can begin. So it works just really fluidly. As you can see, the possibilities, it's a great scenario. Let's take a look at the portal. So as you can see, it's the subdomain is the name of the company. That's what I recommend. And then of course your purchase domain and a very recognizable or explainable top level domain. That's the key there. And then one nice little touch is adding the company name in the example there. I think that it's the little things. And speaking of the little things, I also have this page. Once they enroll, they will be greeted with this page. It'll just say, successfully enrolled in the, whatever. Please check your email for next steps. You may now close out this page. So now they're thinking, okay, I've done everything I need to. You're on the phone telling them that they've done everything they need to, and they're just awaiting an email. And that is going to buy you plenty of time for your other calls, because that's the key there, is just making sure that every person you do speak to is not, caught onto this, or else they're going to alert everyone else, and you're only going to get a few credentials, which, mind you, is fine, but why not grab some more? After all, we are trying to demonstrate to the client the level of security awareness, not necessarily, anything else. So, actually making the calls. Here's the thing. We kind of constantly battle. We consultants constantly discuss this. I am a fan of Spoof Card app. I just grab the app, I download, some tokens, I pay for some tokens, and it's just typically trouble-free. It's, it doesn't get to be too expensive, because keep in mind, most people are not picking up their phones. You're only talking to these people for a couple of minutes at a time. So it's not expensive. It works well. You put it on speakerphone, and you just kind of have at it. It's a great app for this. The big key here, and this is kind of where the public speaking analogy comes in, is you got to get into character. You want to be a good actor. And I know that sounds so obvious, and it's like, well, yeah, that would be great. But I don't feel like a lot of people take that seriously. I really try to put myself in the mindset of who it is that I'm calling as. If I'm Robert Simmons or whoever I used in the last slide, and from help, from the service desk, I'm going to try to put myself in that frame of mind. I'm going to try to relax. I lean back in my chair. I'm just kind of John Q. Public, just living out his life, just getting through the day, clocking out at 5 and seeing the misses. That's where I put my head, and I just try to be a regular person, talking with that tone, just being casual, being natural, and speaking as they would. It's the nervousness tone that people catch on to, and they will immediately become a lot more suspicious, because they're just like, why is this guy so nervous to talk to me? And just those small little moments of hesitation give someone just enough time to think, wait a minute, do I really know who I'm speaking to right now? And am I really about to log into some random portal I've never seen before? What's going on here? That's the amount of time that we don't want to give them. And then, of course, a couple of quality of life tips, since this is focused a lot on phone pretexting being stressful to a lot of people. It is, no matter how good you are at it, or how much you enjoy, really getting successful out of it. It is one of those things that you do feel the jitters right before making those calls. I suggest trying to get a group together. Maybe not a group. I understand that's a lot of resources dedicated to something like that, but maybe you and one other person, getting together, somebody mutes themselves and listens to you have your conversation. Then it becomes more like prank phone calls at a slumber party. It kind of changes the nervous energy into a fun energy, and encourages you to sound better and more natural, because you're not only getting something from that target, but you're also kind of impressing your friend. It just works out that way to make it a lot more enjoyable. And honestly, it's always given me more success that way too. And then, of course, if you do end up making a couple calls together or as a group, make sure you keep a log organized from the start that you can all contribute to, like on OneNote or something, because it is a pain to go in separately and, kind of combine all of the records when you could have just done that in the first place. So you've had success. Now what? We did kind of cover this earlier. Like I said, if post-exploitation is in scope, then, if they have multi-factor authentication, you can use those credentials that you gathered on the phone to target, the login. You can let them know that the token is going to be popping up on their side, if they could go ahead and accept that. And, you can prepare all of that on the phone, and then by the time you're done with that phone call, you are in their email, and post-exploitation has begun, and it just works out really, really well to get a foothold, and then, you keep going on from there. Because if post-exploitation is in scope, we all know that the goal of the phone pretexting campaign suddenly becomes domain administrator. With post-ex, that's the whole key. So you'll have a lot more fun, because you'll change something as non-technical as phone pretexting to something very technical as getting DA. And that's, of course, what we're all here for. Questions?